Now, the gray, the popular one called that, is oftentimes a suit. What you see it with the big black eyes and the tight-fitting skin and whatnot, and sometimes even a suit on top of that, is a suit. Underneath, it is a brownish and pinkish looking creature. And their eyes are not that large, like they're not big visors like that. That's like sunglasses for them. Okay? Some of those are fallen aggressive types. Okay? So when you hear stories about that, try to discern when you hear about encounters and alien interactions. Try to determine what's of the good and what's of the bad. Now there are some big mysteries too, right? Like there are things about human abductions that sometimes seemed for the benefit. There's stories of the Star Brothers helping in healing, right? And then sometimes there's stories of what seems to be a cruel, not very gentle examination of a body. Now, here's what I can pose a question though, is that if you were an animal and you're taken to the vet, and the vet is there to heal and help you, and the vet is holding you down and puts a needle into you and is giving you medicine and trying to help your problem, right? The vet knows it's doing he or she knows he or she's doing their best for the animal with good intentions. And then the animal's owner also knows this. But from the animal's point of view, what would the animal say? They held me down and they stuck a needle in me and they're very mean, and they would go on in this vein from the animal's point of view, perhaps, until and unless the animal knew that this is their very good friend helping them out. So keep that in mind, that sometimes with the abduction stories, the person that experienced it perceived it as this horrible, lab experiment thingy or whatnot. But that could be also it's the fright and the unknowing. However, a lot of people that have been abducted and have had interactions also say they remember that they accepted it, that they had said, yes, I will do it. So this is before an incarnation, and then in the fine fibers of subtlety in their mind, wherewith inside their incarnation, and then it happens. Now I can tell you personally my own experience of, and I won't call it an abduction because it's not that. I wrote this article, and you can, well, if you want to call it that, this story, and it was published on a website. Maybe I'll spread it around a bit more. But my own very big memory, my big encounter that I remember, that's recent. There's probably been on and off my whole life for all I know. But a recent one is simply this, and this is hard subject matter. If you don't want to believe me and now you think that I have lost my mind and gone off on a tangent, well, I'll just say, if you think like that, you're just misinformed. Okay, this is another dimension to our reality that is true. It is very true. And you don't need to be afraid of it. Learn more about it, and when you get knowledge, your knowledge will become acceptance, and then you start to, well, let's put it this way. The more you learn about it, the more you gain discernment. There'll be an intuitive knowing and a part of you that can set aside true from false, what's wacko, what's simple matter of fact. Now, I understand there's a lot of stories that are fake and false. Yes, there are. A lot of people do it for publicity, to get fame and fortune quickly, or they want attention. A lot of people are very authentic with their story. So I want to say at least this one story, and I'll go on a little bit longer too. Okay, so bear with me. The last memory I have of an encounter is when my wife and I went on our first year anniversary before we had our firstborn son, and we went to Saint Adèle in Quebec. And we went to a certain bed and breakfast, and we were there for just a few nights. And it was a humble, cute town, just a nice getaway. And I remember we were talking to each other about, we both, I won't say the word believe, we both understand this part of reality, that there are UFOs and inhabitants of them. And so we were on the balcony of this place. It has like just 2 floors, but the way that it was situated was that on the second floor seemed like being a lot higher, because where the ground floor ended, it went down another level. Then there was like this big backyard. So it seemed to be a little higher. And then that itself, the back of the establishment was on like a cliff going down, sort of. Like it's a very hilly country. There's a ski resort there. So hills and drops. So we seemed, even though on the second floor, we seemed a lot higher from what was the ground in front of us. And I remember looking at stars and the moon, and then there was a lot of clouds and you couldn't see many stars, and I said, oh, I kind of wanted to see one tonight. And not thinking much of it, we ended up having a nice meal and talking and joking around, and we were reading paranormal stories and different things. That's what we did on our anniversary. We're into that stuff. It wasn't so much chocolate and wine and a romantic movie, but paranormal. Anyway, so I remember wishing to see more, but there are too many clouds. And we went to bed around 11:30, something like that. I don't remember. Maybe midnight, I don't remember. And the next thing I remember before I woke up was I'm in a circular room. I don't even necessarily have to call it a craft, but a circular room. And the room it was all very clean, very shiny, very polished, and metallic, mixed with plastics and different types of, I don't know, I don't have the technical terms for these things. I don't know what you call the material. And it looked like the inside of what you call a UFO. And there were, to the best of my memory, circular portholes, as it were, all around. And the craft, to call it that, it was sort of shaped like this, like what do you call that, oblong, where it's kind of like that, and then that, and it had like a bottom part, and then I think a higher floor that went around as well, with maybe a railing. And anyway, here's the nice part. In front of me were recognizable figures, and there were 7 of them. Okay, there were 3 and 3 and 1 in the center. Now they didn't look like gray aliens or anything, or little green men. Okay, no, not at all. They looked like you and I. They looked like humans, human beings like us. And these particular gentlemen, they were all men, and they had these, I don't want to say silky, but some kind of soft material clothing, almost looking like robes, almost. And they all had maybe medium length hair, maybe a bit longer in some, and facial hair. And mostly dark hair, like black and brown. And 6 of them were looking at me, and I was presented before. Then there was a master in the center. And he radiated terrific peace energy, great aura. He was a master. And my eyes were down, and neither did he look at me. We were having a communication. And I was sort of paying, how do you pronounce it, obeisances. I was giving my deference to him. He was a master, and I was listening. It was a telepathic communication. Now this whole experience lasted for maybe, in my memory, what I remember of it, the memory and the image I had of that experience, it's only 10 or 15 seconds or so, something along this lines, very short. But the imprint and the image and the memory is very real. And interestingly enough, in the morning, yes, I remember that, and I talked about it with my wife, and we both got excited and were chattering away. Well, the morning after, and I'll try and find a way to incorporate this either at the end of the video somehow, or put it somewhere on my channel, or I'll find a way somehow. Maybe my wife can help me put it separately on a part 3 or something. Anyway, the morning after, so the second morning after that happened, I discovered a small scar on my temple. Very, very thin, and it looked like either a number 1 or an arrow that only had like part of the side missing, or like the Futhark, one of the letters of the Futhark. So a line going up, and then a little check like that. And a very thin, scabby scar. And there's no way that I did that to myself. Such perfect 2 straight lines. If I would have scratched myself in my sleep, it wouldn't have looked like a perfect one or a perfect whatever. It was thin and neat and clean, and it healed within a couple of days. So that was a message, and I've been researching upon that, and I have an intuitive understanding of what it means. Okay, and this is one such communication. This is a very real experience, extremely and 100% real. If you don't want to believe me, that's your choice. But I'm not making this video to get your approval whether you accept it or not. I'm saying this as a truth for those who are attracted to these kind of true stories. Okay? Because this is encouraging each other to come forward and talk about these kind of things. We don't have to be afraid about it. This is part of our reality. So that's one major story I wanted to share. Another one is to tell you guys this. There is a race, and I'm also 100% telling you the truth. There is a race of extraterrestrial biological entities that look like Chewbacca. They look like Wookiees, Sasquatch. Okay, there is a race that looks like that, and they are advanced, and they come and go according to their agreement with the divine will, and they have jobs to do as well. And so they look like tall ape-like creatures, and as far as I'm to know, most of them are very good and helpful and loving. And I had a very powerful dream about them and a strong message about them. And it's not just because of the dream I had that I'm saying, oh, they're true. It's a lot. Do your research for yourself. Please, I don't want to say to be mean or something, but please don't be lazy. Go look for yourself and verify these things. There are lots of stories about a Sasquatch-looking creature that's something to do with UFOs. They come in, they are seen when UFOs appear in certain places. I think Mount Adams, is that it? Is one place where they've been seen, and that can be found on YouTube very easily, and that's recent. Also the TV show Paranormal State, when they did the Mount Adams UFO research, when they teamed up with the guys there, then there's talk about that too. So go see for yourself, and don't just look at that, look deeper, look into it. Okay, they're people, as Red Elk, who I love very much, the shaman, would say, they're people just like us. So you have this Wookiee type race. Now here's another interesting thing. As the great African shaman, the Salusi, Credo Mutwa, said, and that's an interesting guy to listen to. Go check out his, when he is interviewed by David Icke. Credo Mutwa, African shaman, Salusi. Very awesome. I like what he says. Mr. David, I would like to know who gave the knowledge to the person who did the movie Star Wars. He says it, and I like his deep voice and his accent. It's cool. But it's true. When George Lucas and these guys made the Star Wars movies, is it just a thing they invented? No. These guys are big insiders, and they know things. They were meant to make that movie. They were told to make that movie, to express the idea out there. They were inspired and suggested, and they did it. So when you're introduced to these different races on popular culture, TV and movies and whatnot, and stories, a lot of them are very, very real. Now I know it sounds hard. It sounds like haberdashery. It sounds like imaginative musings and delusions and whatnot. But honestly, I'm telling you the truth. It is very